The following is a presentation of Calm World Media. The future of talk.
Your attention, please.
Here is a special and urgent message for you.
I am the greatest. Please remain calm.
Keep tuned to the station for further information and instruction.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
The PodGOATs are on the air.
It is another episode of the PodGOATs. What the heck is that? Huh?
I was trying to make a goat noise.
Is that what that was? Is he sick? Does he need a doctor? That's a goat noise, is it?
That is an alarming goat noise.
It is an alarming goat. Well, we are the PodGOATs. It is Phil Valentine.
And Campbell Valentine.
And today we're talking about...
Spies.
Oh, one of my favorite topics. Did I tell you as a kid I always wanted to be a spy?
I thought you wanted to be a Secret Service agent.
Well, whatever.
Just anything like that?
Anything like a spy. I mean, I loved James Bond. I loved all that stuff. I even loved Get Smart. Which was a farce, but, it was a comedy.
The remake of that was good.
It was very good with Steve Carell.
Oh, yeah.
I guess the question is, are movie and TV spies anything remotely like real spies?
And we're talking about both real spies and fictional spies.
Real and fictional spies.
Both. Well, we've also got a few spy stories of operations that went comically wrong.
Sounds interesting. Stay tuned. That's all coming up right after this. Unquestionably the most famous spy, wouldn't you say, James Bond?
Oh, definitely. But what I'm more curious about is, what is our fascination with spies? You're a spy novelist in some sense of the word.
Right. Some pitiful sense of the word, yes. Sterling Mcqueen spy stories, yes. Well, I think our fascination with it is that everything's secret. We're fascinated with secrets.
Invisible ink.
Yeah, secret messages, everything that's secret, we're fascinated with, anything that we don't know. So I think that's what, and spies are cool. I mean, at least the spies in the movies and on TV. I don't know about real life because I don't really know any real life spies.
Well, how would you?
That's true, because they wouldn't tell you they're a spy, would they?
Or they'd kill you.
And some of these folks that we know who are spies that have come out have not been real glamorous. I mean, some of these folks who have been spying for the Soviet Union or this Russian chick that they've got, in jail. So they're not really cool people in real life, but in the movies and in books, they're really cool.
You've got to have just no personal life if you're a spy. I mean, right?
Well, that's the way Ian Fleming imagined James Bond. He was an orphan and he had no family. And so they would pick people like that because they had nothing to lose. Nobody could blackmail them. Nobody could threaten their family. They didn't have anything. So everything they had was with the Secret Service.
And what about Sterling Mcqueen? What is his backstory?
Well, that's interesting because people have been asking me, where does this guy come from? And we really haven't developed Sterling McQueen's backstory. All we know from the first book is that Sterling McQueen lives on a yacht, an old yacht, and that he is somewhat of a misogynist. He's not real keen on women.
Like Bond.
Like Bond, yeah. But we don't, and people say, well, is he gay? No, I don't think he's gay. I just think...
A gay misogynist.
I don't think he's gay. I just think that he is... he's just somebody that his work is everything to him. So his mistress, his wife, his lover, his lady is his work.
Oh, that's poetic.
Isn't it, though?
That's not bad.
That ought to be on a pillow. So Sterling McQueen is sort of fashioned after James Bond in that because I think, to me, the best James Bond movie ever was Casino Royale with Daniel Craig.
Right. That is arguably the best one as far as being true to what Ian Fleming's trying to do in the books.
Right, and you look back at the books, and this James Bond was a blunt instrument. That's what Daniel Craig is in the first one.
He's got kind of an apish look to him.
Sure, he does. He's like a goon, sort of. He's like a hired hitman. That's
but women find him attractive.
I guess so. Well, they find spies attractive.
Yeah.
So anything, you're at the bar, you want to pick somebody up, and they say, what do you do? Say, I'm a secret agent. Oh, boy, they flock all over you. Try that sometime.
I'm Sterling McQueen. I live on a yacht.
So my thought with Sterling McQueen was that we're going to go back old school.
I like this. See, I think that's the greatest component of that book. These modern spy stories, they're too much tech is involved.
Well, that's what's going on with the James Bond franchise right now. I mean, Casino Royale was great. And then Quantum of Solace was pretty good, but it started to get more and more ridiculous. What What I don't like about them, and the reason I wrote the Sterling McQueen books, is that they have all the high-tech stuff that is unrealistic, and then the over-the-top stunts, and then you shoot at the character about 300 times and you never hit him, and all that stuff is just unrealistic. My guy is just he's a regular guy. He lives on a yacht. Lives on a regular guy who lives on a yacht, has wears expensive clothes and expensive watches, and other than that, flies first class. But other than that, he's a regular guy.
Sleeps with a different woman every night.
Sure, but other than that, he's just
run-of-the-mill character,
just like you and me. But we don't put in a bunch of over-the-top stunts, and I think that's what starts to kill these movies. It goes back into the Roger Moore era of James Bond, and I think that's a mistake that they're doing with this James Bond.
Yeah, that's what's refreshing about Daniel Craig, and really just in Casino Royale, I guess, was that it was moving away from kind of the campy Bond that we're used to seeing. Even Sean Connery has moments where it's a little campier, a little contrived seeming.
Did you know that I do a mean Sean Connery impersonation?
I actually know for a fact that you do not do any kind of Sean Connery impersonation.
You want to hear it?
Oh, good Lord.
Come on now.
All right, let's hear it, Bond.
Well, all right, first of all, I got to set the scene, all right? This is from Goldfinger, right?
Okay.
But we're going to have some non-copyrighted Goldfinger music from the scene so that we don't get sued.
Well, hit us with it.
There it is. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so here's the scene. Sean Connery as Bond, strapped to a table. There's a laser beam that's cutting through the steel on the table, and it's inching towards his crotch, right? And he's getting nervous. And there's Goldfinger there, just seems to be totally unaffected by this. Goldfinger, do you expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die.
And scene.
Thank you.
That's not too shabby.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Thank you so much.
It's not bad.
Thank you. Oscar worthy?
Let's take the bar down a little bit.
Okay.
Comical.
Okay, thank you.
Also, there's some misogynistic stuff from some of those first movies, shaking them. Tell me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Slapping around.
Oh, sure. And then sees the guy coming up behind him in her eyes, and then turns her around so they hits her in the head and kills her.
Good Lord, Bond.
But, to me, when you do a spy story, what people are fascinated with is the story. I know they throw these things in because Bond sort of it was the pace car for this as it got, as the franchise went on, about the ridiculous stunts and the gadgets. And Q, I don't believe, was in the books. Was Q? I don't think Q was in the books.
I don't think so.
So that's something that was brought along in the movies that I think starts to add the silly dimension to it.
Yeah, and I think that's what these actual secret agents or international spies, which I don't know. Can you come out of retirement and then say, yeah, I was an international spy? I mean, someone's liable to come track you down and cut your head off, right?
Yeah, the real people don't ever do that.
Right.
And then, of course, you got Austin Powers, who was not only a secret agent, but also a world-famous photographer. And I'm going, come on, man.
They've got him running around like the Beatles. Everybody's chasing him.
Oh, exactly. Everybody knows who he is, but nobody knows who he is. It's ridiculous. Well, so what does your generation think of this spy genre? Are they into it, or do they think it's something from another age?
Well, it's kind of twofold because they're really into it, but they're more into your age of it. They don't like the tech stuff as much. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about like remakes, but like we love like the Mission Impossible stuff. We love Bond, but we're still on the same page of being like, we don't want to see gadgets and computers and Bond tracking somebody down on the internet, and I don't know, that just, it doesn't make for a good story, I don't think, regardless of who you are.
Well, when you're sitting there in the movie theater or you're reading a book and you go, oh, come on. I mean, when you have that oh, come on moment, I think that's when you lose the reader or lose the viewer.
Jumping the shark.
Jumping the shark, absolutely. They don't believe it. And I think that's what a lot of these do.
Jump the shark, that came from Happy Days, right?
Yeah, it was, I believe, it was season 5, I think. They all went from Milwaukee to L.A., and then for some reason, Fonzie decides he's going to jump a shark on water skis. I don't know. You would think, with the phrase "jumping the shark," you would think that'd be the end of the series. But I think they actually did 2 more seasons after that. I don't know how you top jumping a shark, but that's where that came from.
Was it just completely ruined after that?
It was for me, but apparently not for everybody else. You know, you got the LCDs out there, lowest common denominator, so they came back for more after.
Heck yeah, jumped that shark.
But I mean, that's where that came from.
Right. I love what my uncle, your brother-in-law, said the new phrase should be after that Indiana Jones movie,
Right.
The Nuke in the Fridge.
Right.
That whole thing was ridiculous. You remember when he's sinking in quicksand and throw me a stick, and Shia LaBeouf's character can only find a snake, and he throws it to him. And snakes. Why is it always got to be
I know,
snakes?
that's ridiculous.
But you're sitting in a jungle, Indiana.
There are no vines in the jungle?
Come on.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. Yeah, what he's talking about is that scene where they're doing a nuclear test, and he finds himself out on the site where they're doing the nuclear test, and he has nowhere to hide except he crawls inside a refrigerator, and then after the nuke goes off, it levels everything around him. He miraculously crawls out of the refrigerator unscathed. Yes.
Because it's lead-lined.
Sure, absolutely. I'm sure that. But there's no radiation around after a nuclear blast, is there?
No.
Yeah. So that nuke in the fridge is the new jump in the shark.
All right, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
You have written a spy story and are continuing this thing with Sterling McQueen. And I know you're a big Bond fan, as am I. But did you use any real-life spies? Did you use any real-life inspiration?
I'm trying to think. You know, some of the stories in the second book is definitely based on a real villain, a real-life villain. And this guy was named Gerald Bull. He was a Canadian. And
that sounds like a Bond villain.
It does, doesn't it? So we've got a French name for him that's sort of like Gerard Bull, but it's different. You'll have to read the book.
Oh.
And anyway, so this guy, what he did was he developed this really high-tech, it's almost like a huge cannon. This is real life, this guy did. And he was developing this in conjunction with the Canadians and the United States. And then the Canadians pulled the plug on their end of it, so he ends up moving to the United States. So as the story goes, he allegedly hooked up with the CIA, helped them run this weapon that he had developed, this big gun, to South Africa. He got caught and was charged with illegal arms sales to South Africa and was actually sent to prison for about 6 months. And the story goes that the CIA left him twisting in the wind, and he was kind of hacked off about that. So when he got out, he ended up going and working for the Iraqis on a project called Project Babylon. This was a huge cannon-like thing. It was a long gun that could shoot munitions a long way. Well, the Israelis were naturally nervous about this. And so this guy's living in Brussels. He comes home one night after grocery shopping, and somebody pops a cap in him. So they think it's the Israelis, Mossad. They have denied it. There are other theories that it was actually the Iraqis because he had left their program. Who knows? But at the end of the day, he ended up dead.
So a spy killed him.
Yeah, essentially
a secret agent.
A secret agent. We don't know to this day. We don't know whether it was the Israelis or us or the Iraqis or whoever. But the guy's dead.
Why do people not know about this guy?
I don't know.
That's insanely interesting. Why do people not? Why is he not more mainstream?
I have no idea. So I took that story and I wove it into a plot with a Sterling McQueen story. It's essentially, except he's got a different kind of weapon and it's a different person. It's a different, the circumstance is different, obviously, but it's based on that guy. I hope I don't get sued. But he's dead, so I mean, good luck in suing me. Yeah,
the secret agent could sue you.
Well, that's true. The guy who bumped him off, but we don't know who that is. Whether it's Mossad from Israel or whether it was the CIA, we have no idea who killed the guy.
That's what's terrifying and extremely interesting. But like you're saying, which is how you've conceptualized the second book, part of what makes those Bond books so good is they have great villains.
Oh yeah.
And they're
names.
Believable. Yeah, the names are.
Yeah.
In Moonraker, it's Hugo Drax.
I guess.
That's a great
I don't
name.
think I've ever watched that movie all the way through because that's when they started to lose me. But
I just read it.
But the book was good, but the movie, was just ridiculous.
You know who could be a Bond villain in real life if he wanted to?
Who's that?
Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be and he's got a good Bond. He's got a great Bond villain name.
Doesn't he, though?
Elon Musk. Oh.
And he's got sort of that South African accent.
Yeah.
He's got sort of British.
You could see him dressed in all black, flicking a lighter.
Oh,
Bond
yeah.
walks in.
Absolutely. Or maybe on Joe Rogan's show smoking a joint.
He could destroy the world.
He could if he wanted to.
Should we not be more worried about that?
Well, he thinks we should be worried about artificial intelligence. I'm more worried about Elon Musk.
I think Elon Musk is artificial intelligence.
He may be. He thinks we're living in the Matrix, is what he says.
I've heard that, yeah.
How would they know?
The theory is in however many millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years, we will make VR technology so good that you can't distinguish it from actual reality, like down to the atomic level. So, in theory, we will make billions and billions and trillions of other universes inside of VR. So then comes the problem of, well, if we're going to do that in the future, who's to say it hasn't already happened? The odds of us being in that scenario, of us being in the one true reality, if we'll someday or some aliens will get to the point where they can simulate billions of universes, the odds of us being in the original one are impossible. That's how the theory goes.
Dude,
bro.
Yeah, now I see why he was smoking dope on Joe Rogan's show. Well, here's the deal. If we're in the Matrix and somebody's controlling this, then wouldn't Elon Musk come in here and stop us in this little studio from the PodGOATs from talking about him now that we figured him out?
I don't know, man. Look, I can hardly follow what Elon Musk is doing.
Well, let's go back to him being a villain because he reminds me of Mr. Green, sort of, in the second Daniel Craig one, Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
And this guy,
he does.
Which I thought was really, really strange from a Hollywood-type movie. I know they're British. But, the villain was some environmentalist who was going to corner the market on water in Bolivia or something.
Yeah, that's not par for the course.
No, it's
Hollywood.
not. And it's something like I would do in a Sterling McQueen novel, and I'm not even that bold, so I thought that was pretty cool. Where does the spy genre go from here, you think?
I think what you have to do is keep up with the times. It takes a more creative writer now to do it. I'm not.
Thank you. I
unless you do it the way you did.
Are you looking at me?
Which anybody could do that. You need to consider so many factors now that it takes somebody very creative to consider all of it. I think you can still condense it down into a good story, but the problem is these folks go into it and they have a ex machina for everything. Oh, well, we have the computer software we never told you about that's been tracking.
Right.
You gotta keep it. You gotta simplify it.
Well, that was my problem when I started writing this, because I actually started writing this. His name wasn't Sterling McQueen at the time, I don't believe. But I actually got the idea for this on my honeymoon. Well, I'll never be able to keep up with this. By the time I come up with something that's not even out there, then it becomes reality, and then I'm looking old and stale. So I decided, screw all that. I'm not going to try to keep up with the technology. I'm going to make this guy old school and take him back to the basics. He doesn't have a cell phone. He doesn't have a computer. He doesn't have a credit card. He doesn't have any way you can track him. And he just lives off the grid, and that's what makes him dangerous.
And that was my favorite part of reading it. I was hooked on it when I was reading it. But not only does he go back to the basics, but there's reasons for it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody
else has been exposed.
Yeah. It makes sense within the context of it's the smarter play within the context of the book, and that's what I think you have to do. You have to work around. You have to simplify the story in some way.
Well, one of the reasons I did this is because of all the fear over Facebook and all these big conglomerates out there spying on you. So your generation is more plugged into this technology. Are they also at the same time scared that everybody is spying on them? Yeah,
that's interesting.
Because, the big thing, especially your age, and this is not just your generation, but it's anybody your age, that's in their 20s, it's all about, I don't want anybody telling me what to do. I don't want people tracking me. But, parents are tracking kids' cell phone. We don't do that to you, by the way. But kids' cell phones are being tracked by I know a bunch of parents, so they know exactly where their kids are all the time, and their kids have no idea. But they also read their text messages, and we've never done that with you guys.
Well, that's like opening someone's mail, I feel like.
But we got parents. I know parents, they go, you don't read their text message? We go, no. Well, why don't you? I'm going, because it's their text message.
Yeah, a little privacy. It is interesting because we have submitted ourselves to, we're voluntarily being spied on.
That's right, all the time. And we got cameras everywhere we go.
We're on Facebook all the time.
Yeah. That was the other thing about this Cambridge Analytica thing. People are all upset about that. All Cambridge Analytica was doing was getting access to what you were posting on Facebook and then targeting you with ads. I'm going, why are you upset about that?
Yeah, you're the one who posted it. I will say, though, it is a little creepy. Have you ever been having a conversation with somebody about something and seen it pop up on your phone?
I've heard about that. I don't know
it
that I've
happens
had that
to me
happen.
all the time. And at first I thought, I saw people posting about it and I was like, this has got to be a joke. But you'll be talking about, oh, we, I would love to go to Japan or whatever. And
Then all of a sudden it comes up on
flights for Japan.
Well, that means one of two things. Either your phone is spying on you or we're in the Matrix. I don't know. So is it your phone spying on you? Is that what's going on?
Elon Musk is sending me flights.
So Siri is hearing what you're saying on your phone and then sending you stuff? Because I have heard that technology is out there and that that's what they're doing.
I guess so. I don't know, but it's real Big Brother seeming.
Oh, way Big Brother.
What about Mark Zuckerberg? Do you think he could be a Bond villain, or is he just too wimpy looking?
No, I think Mark Zuckerberg is Data from Star Trek. That is the same dude, isn't it?
Yeah, they do look really similar.
And I think he never ages, right?
Yeah,
he's still like 30.
They've got the same MO.
He's always been 30. Nobody ever knew him before. Nobody knows him afterwards. I think the dude is a robot. Is what I think he is.
Did you watch that hearing with him?
Yeah, I did.
We'll post a picture on the website, but I mean, he looks like he's trying to figure out how humans drink a cup of water. Like he keeps looking at it, and he'll like bring it up to his face, and
is this going to short circuit me?
And his eyes are, and
I'm telling you, we're going to put side by side Data and Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
They are the same. Well, I would say the same person, but they're not. Neither one of them is a person. They're robots. These are both robots.
Mark Zuckerberg is a robot, and Elon Musk is sent from the Matrix.
Elon Musk made Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh my, we're going to get killed.
We got the new spy novel.
They're going to kill us. They're going to find us.
Oh, you hear that? Oh, I think that Elon will be out in a minute.
Get out here. I have no idea what Elon Musk sounds like. I don't think he's Swiss.
You are being foolish. So anytime you go to a villain, though, it's got to have sort of a German accent or some nondescript German-esque accent.
I know. That just works so well.
You're being foolish, yo.
I thought, I didn't like Spectre that much.
It jumped the shark.
But I do think Christoph Waltz had a ton of potential. He's a great villain.
Well, he's a great villain and a great actor. I just think that if they can pull that thing back for the next one, they've got something. But I think that their temptation is to just go full bore. He's Blofeld, obviously, and so he's going to be bald. He's going to be stroking the white cat in the lap and all the rest of the stuff, and then it starts to get ridiculous.
Yeah, is Daniel Craig, is this his last one?
Well, he said he'd rather slit his wrist than do it again, but I think he's going to. So apparently, what he ought to do the first scene is he ought to have his wrist taped up when he comes back in the new one.
Prior accident.
Now, I'm going to mention a movie, and I know you thought this was ridiculous, but I thought that the whole thing was just brilliant. You know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going with it.
True Memoirs of an International Assassin with Kevin James. I thought, and I know Kevin James has sort of become the Nick Cage of Hollywood, but I thought, if you're not familiar with this guy is a wannabe spy novelist, and he talks with a guy that he shoots pool with, and he's friends with this old guy who's retired Mossad agent. And this guy tells him some stories, and he said, but you can never tell anybody this. He works it into a plot line of his book, and then the books, he gets this woman who's going to put it up, help him self-publish. She puts it out on the internet. It becomes but she puts it out there as true confessions from an assassin. Then he has to go on TV and talk about the book, and then, of course, the real people involved in this case come after him, and then the laughter and intrigue ensue. I thought it was a brilliant plot.
I think it's a good idea, but are you kidding me, man? That movie was so... What do you think it got on Rotten Tomatoes? I'm looking at it right here.
Probably.
What would you give it?
I would have given it a 90. 90.
Good Lord,
they probably gave it a
man.
13.
It has a 0.
Oh.
It does not have 1 percentage point.
I love that movie. I thought it was. I thought everything about it was just. It was cute, but it was clever. I just loved the whole thing, and I like Kevin James. I love Mall Cop, but a lot of people didn't like that either.
I liked Kevin James. Maybe ask me
King of
8
Queens
years ago.
when he was on
Yeah.
TV.
But good Lord, man! I mean, I think True Memoirs, great idea.
Bad
But-
execution.
Terrible execution.
Well, I liked it. Well, what do you got? I mean, what's some of the movies you like?
Well, they're not Kevin James movies. I can guarantee you that.
Hey, maybe Kevin James could be the new Bond.
Good Lord.
Oh, well, they're talking about, Bond is black or Bond is a transgender.
Bond's fat.
How about Bond is a fat guy? That's right. What's wrong with that?
I do want to get into this while we're on the topic of Bond.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple things I want to ask you. Number one, I feel like we differ on this because we may have talked about it a few years ago. Where do you stand on the idea that James Bond is the code name for 007, not the man's name?
Well, when you first broached that, I was going, no. But then it would make everything make sense. It's sort of like M. M is interchangeable. They've had a male M, female M, back to a male M. I think that, though, we'll give them license to do all sorts of things. Like we've talked about, what's his name, the black British actor as being James Bond?
I think it's Idris Elba, right?
Okay, whatever his name is. But I don't have a problem with a black James Bond per se, although you have in your mind what Ian Fleming had concocted. I just don't think he's the right guy. He plays a good bad guy, I think.
Yeah, he does.
He's like one of these kingpins from an African nation. He's done that before. He does that very well. I don't visualize him as Bond. If you had a Denzel Washington type person, I'm not saying Denzel himself because he's too old and he's American, but if you had somebody that was that cool, but if they're talking, some directors on we need to have a gay Bond. We don't need to have a gay Bond just so we can be politically correct. We need to have a transgender Bond. No, we don't need to have a transgender Bond. We just need to have a great actor playing James Bond. Should James Bond be a woman? No, it'd be Jane Bond, for crying out loud. We don't need a woman playing. So there are, you can take some liberties with it, but you can't go nuts.
Yeah, and I think people see it as like exclusionary to be like, okay, well, we're going to stick to the story. But no one has a problem with a woman being a lead or a black dude being a lead or a transgender person being a lead. Why does it have to be James Bond? You can go make a super successful film with anything.
Well, we're going to make Wonder Woman a guy?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
People would raise Cain.
Oh, they would. Maybe Wonder Woman is a transgender or whatever. That'd be stupid. Wonder Woman is a woman, and a hot one, too. That's what makes that movie work. That's what makes that whole comic book thing work.
I don't know. The movie was not bad.
And then we've got, of course, Black Panther. What if we make him white? It wouldn't be the same movie, obviously, if you made Black Panther a white guy. It'd be a white Panther. So come on, folks. What are they going to do in the next movie? Make the Black Panther gay?
Well, then he'd be the Pink Panther.
I guess he would be the Pink Panther. Look, my point is, if you think that James Bond ought to be a transgender, then come up with an original transgender secret agent and put that out there and see if anybody will go see it.
I completely agree. Yeah, you can make a great story. Just leave the stories that are already established, leave them alone.
Yeah, well, it give this secret agent, a change of disguise when he's going through airports. You don't know whether is that a guy? Is that a woman?
Are these heels?
Yes.
Explosive heels.
That would be cool, wouldn't it? And maybe that can be his thing, like
Lipstick.
Odd Job. He can throw his heel at you.
Lipstick detonator.
Sure, you could do.
Maybe
the whole
I'll
thing.
write it.
Yeah, there you go.
It's got some potential.
That'll be your next spy novel.
Are you a spy? You sure know a lot about it.
Listen, we got to go. Folks.
Spying for Elon Musk and being remote controlled by Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, that would be like the Austin Powers thing. So here's this guy. He's on the radio. Everybody knows him around here, but he's a secret spy.
International spy.
International man of mystery. That would be a great front, though. Here's a guy who's going to Europe to do research for a spy novel, but he's actually making contacts over in Europe every time he goes.
Writes books about spies, talks about himself being a spy.
Yeah.
Says you started the show saying, well, I always wanted to be a spy.
It's too obvious, isn't it?
And you had a look in your eyes.
It's too obvious.
Well, you can't write the next Sterling Mcqueen novel if you're spying.
Well, I guess I can, because then I write about what I'm spying about, but it's so ridiculous. I mean, it's out there. Nobody would believe that's a true story.
You've got true memoirs of an international assassin just burned into your head.
I got to put on some few pounds, and I am Kevin James.
Zero, man.
I am Kevin James. A few more pounds, I'm Kevin James.
No one has ever said that. But where do you stand on? Do you subscribe to that notion? You don't think it's what Fleming had in mind?
Well, I don't think that's what Fleming had in mind, but I think it's, if this thing is going to continue on, and then you go back retroactively and say, well, we had George Lazenby playing. Well, I think that makes sense, that it's a code name for a particular position inside British intelligence. And if you do that, then you can take some liberties. I just think if you go too far with the liberties and make him a transgender, people aren't going to go watch it.
Do you know where the 00 comes from?
I don't know exactly what. I know 00 means a license to kill, but I don't know where the 2 O's came from, why they came up with that.
The 2 O's mean for your eyes only.
So what does 2 O's mean with eyes only? I don't understand that.
It just...
Are they supposed to be eyeballs?
Yeah, they're supposed to be eyeballs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty cool.
That's the little
Did you
phrase.
just make that up?
Sounds like I did.
Yes. Well, how about 7? Why 7? Why not 006 or 001? Or
well, there are other 00s, aren't there?
Yeah, there are, but we rarely hear about them. But why did Ian Fleming make James Bond 007? Is there significance to 7? Is that one of the numbers of the Matrix?
Oh, good Lord. Here
We're
we
back
go.
to Elon Musk, I'm sorry.
I want to tell you this. I was, we were talking about spies, and I was looking this thing up last night. You'll get a kick out of it. Have you ever heard of the spy plan Operation Acoustic Kitty?
Operation Acoustic Kitty. I can't say that I have heard of Operation Acoustic Kitty. Please do tell me.
I have no clue who dreamed this up. It's during the Cold War, and in the 1960s, they conceptualized Operation Acoustic Kitty. And what they did was they got a cat, they brought him in, and they took a microphone and, implanted it in his ear so he could listen to things.
Mm-hmm.
Then they flew him out to Russia and dropped him off, hoping, he would run around and receive signals. They drop him off, and they get out of there, and they're watching him, and he tries to walk across the street and gets hit by a car.
And a lot of people don't realize that was the inspiration for Pussy Galore.
Why am I laughing at that? I wish I could take back that laugh. Oh, man.
You can never take it back.
You've been listening to the PodGOATs with Phil and Campbell Valentine. Stream episodes and find out more about the podcast at podgoats.com. Got a question for the goats? Click the Ask Us Anything tab on the website or send a tweet to @podgoats and your post might be read on the air. PodGOATs is produced by ComWorld Media. All rights reserved.
This has been a presentation of ComWorld Media, the future of talk.